is Bob Parker. For the last 2 or so years, I've been working with the dam owners and trying to help them out, and with Tim Miller from Lake County Stormwater to figure out how we can address this, the issues with the dam. We've done a lot of work. I think there's been a lot of good things happening. It's nice to update everybody. Sorry. There's going to be an opportunity today to ask questions at the end. If you have questions during the presentation, feel free to ask. If you don't want to have that discussion in front of everybody, we have team members here today you can talk to. You can ask me. Kim Brewster is over there. Kim, she's part of the team. Jim Gill sitting in the back, he's part of the team. Lake County engineer. Lake County Stormwater Director, Tim Miller. Andy Rose, the Concord Township Administrator, here on behalf of the Concord Township Trustees. Nick and Steve from Lake County Stormwater, you guys raise your hand. So, any of those people can help you answer. Oh, sorry, left out Jeff over here, and he can help too. Any of the people wearing the name badge can help you. If they don't know the answer, they can find it out. So don't feel like you have to stand up and ask in front of everybody. If you have a question that you don't want to stand in front of the cameras. We are recording this, so the people aren't here. They'll have access to it in the future. That way they get to see the same presentation you guys are seeing. Okay, with that, we'll get started. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the proposed restoration. I think last time everyone remembers we had made a decision the dam's going to come out. We're going to restore the stream. So we're moving forward with that. We'll talk a little bit about the approach, the benefits, give you some examples. We'll talk about funding. That was a big question mark last time. We actually sat in this room 9 months ago to the date. So it's kind of interesting when I was editing everything like that. It's been 9 months. So we'll talk about the schedule. The biggest thing we're going to talk about tonight is this piece of paper. And we'll talk a little bit about it, but this is the key to getting everything moving forward for each of you guys as property owners. That's the environmental covenant, and then we'll go over some frequently asked questions. Okay. Our proposed approach is going to be to remove the dam and try to restore the stream to somewhat what it was back in pre-dam phase. You can see this is an aerial photograph of 1951 where you can kind of see where the stream was. If you look real close in red, you can see the outline of the lake today. So that's kind of what the goal is. Here you have a 2011 aerial, so you can see where that same stream is superimposed over the river or the lake today. So, and this is a artist rendition of what it could look like in an aerial view. Again, this is a complete dam removal and a stream restoration. We've shown these before, so if I'm going too fast, I'm going to let me know, but I'm kind of breezing through this because we've all seen these before. Again, this is what it looked like if you're looking kind of at a section to it, where we would have the top section would show the stream, and that's where you have more of a floodplain. The bottom section shows a little more of the vegetated sections, which would be the majority of the area. So we would have a fully developed stream. The area of the lake now would actually be vegetated. Why are we doing this? What are the benefits of the restoration? First of all, for safety and security, the dam is being viewed by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources as a hazard. It's a Class 1 dam. If it were to fail, there would be loss of property and potential loss of life. So we have to address those issues. It also provides a sediment hazard. Because, normally a stream will pick up sediment, and as it goes down, it picks up sediment and drops it in the lake. In this case, Brightwood Lake Dam actually stops that natural process from happening. Sediment actually ends up in Brightwood Lake rather than being carried up, to Lake Erie. The ecological impacts. Right now, the Kellogg Creek downstream from the dam is actually a very high quality stream. Upstream of the dam, it's really not, mostly because it's not continuous. If we can to bring that together, there's a good chance that we can actually increase the whole quality of the stream all the way upstream of the dam. It also helps with the fish and the reestablishing that habitat. here's some examples, and I think I showed these last time, but just to let you see what some things that can happen, and as we work through this, you'll be able to, we'll come out and talk to you and show you guys kind of some ideas of what the stream could look like. This is actually in Maryland. Some members of our team worked on this one. You'll see these little, what we call ripple pools. So if you think about it today, the river stream comes into the lake at the far end, and it exits and over the spillway down into the river. So you have a large vertical drop. If we just connect those 2 points, it's going to flow pretty fast. So these ripple pools allow it to control that descent. So, and it looks pretty nice. This is another one. This was in Staten Island. Anybody's ever been to Staten Island? I've never seen anything like this when I was in Staten Island. Again, you'll see a stream restoration. You'll see new growth in the middle, old growth on the outside. We really wouldn't have that old growth since we're in a lake, but the idea would be to grow something that would kind of fill in. Here's one in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, outside of Lancaster. You'll see this is kind of new. They just restored the stream. They have some new growth out there. You'll see some small trees that hopefully will grow in and make it more mature. And this will be more like what the stream would look like when it's first restored. And here's what we hope to have. This was in Western Virginia. This would be a mature stream restoration. You see the trees are growing in, and you've got great vegetation, and really nice place. So those are some examples of what we hope to accomplish. So the funding, what we've all been waiting for. So for the last 9 months, the team has been working diligently to apply for about $1.6 million in funding to do this project. And at the end of the year, we were told we are fundable. Is that the correct term? I want to make sure. What fundable means is that we are able to, UK has determined that this project is eligible for the money, the funding, and that we could use the funding if we can work through the things we're going to talk about. There's no local match requirement. And really, it's a focus on improving the water quality. So what does that mean now that we've got the funding? We spent 9 months, we got it, so what does that mean to you guys? Really, what we're going to do right now is we have to work through this spring through fall of this year, getting all the ducks in line, getting the design figuring out how we're going to put everything together and prepare a design build request for proposals. We'll send that out by late this year, early next year. Hire a design build contractor, designer. They'll put everything together, and hopefully by next summer we'll be under construction. So that's kind of the timeline. A little different than we talked about last time. I think we were hoping to get a construction a little sooner. This is kind of where the grant will lead us, or where the funding will lead us. So. Here's the big thing: environmental covenants. When we submitted for the grant program, the funding program, we had to the property involved needs to be under environmental covenant. Last time we talked about environmental easements. Very similar covenant easement. The EPA has very specific language. So what we will ask, just so you guys know, when we submitted those, we have to do a title research for every property involved because you have to show that there's nothing that would conflict with what we have. And in the time frame we were dealing with, we chose only to do the properties that were absolutely necessary because it was, 3 weeks to put everything together. We are given the opportunity right now, we have a short window to add whatever properties we want to that. Okay, so that's the biggest thing today to figure out, hey, I want my property involved. Okay, we really need this environmental covenant. What we have tonight is there's copies back here for anybody who wants them. We brought 50 copies. This is an 18-page environmental covenant from the Ohio EPA. My suggestion to you is take it back, read it, talk to your attorney, have them review it. What it really talks about is it's very similar to your easements you have already, or a lot of people already have, the environmental easement or the riparian setback. It limits what you can do on the property. Okay, this, for people who have houses, and I think most of the people here have houses on the lake, this will only be the back portion of your property that's currently under the lake. So it won't be your whole property. But it limits you can't build anything, you can't put a shed there, you can't put a building out there at all. and it limits some of the things you can do. Again, I'm not going to tell you what's in here because I don't want to misrepresent it. I suggest you talk to an attorney. I am not an attorney. Okay, so please take this, look at it, understand it, because we want everyone to understand what they're signing if they sign on for an environmental covenant. So here's what we can do tonight. Okay, Jeff's sitting at the table. He has the map up like we had last time. He has a list of all the properties around the lake. So if you visit him tonight, he will give you a copy of the covenant. Okay? If you are confident that, yes, I want my property involved in this, I want to be part of this, I want my property involved, I want to do this, let Jeff know. We will start doing the covenant and bring it to you. We have to have all the covenants in and executed to Ohio EPA by June 1st. So we're under a tight window to get these done. If you're not sure you want your property involved, if you definitely do not say I don't want to be involved, that's fine. Let us know that. We will work around it. We can't force you to be involved. We can't do work on your property unless you give us that permission. Okay? So tell Jeff that too. Say I don't want my property involved. That's fine. If you're unsure, take a covenant with you. Think about it. We've given out, everyone's got a flyer. It's got all the contact information on it. Tim's card's in there. My card was given out too. Feel free to call us, talk to us, ask us questions. But really, the biggest thing is, we need to know by April 15th whether or not you want your property involved or not. Okay? That gives us the time we need to be able to get the covenant executed back to you. Okay? It comes with this document, it comes with a title search on your property, and it comes with a legal description of the portions of your property that will be included in the covenant. So it'll only be, like I said, the portion that the lake is currently on. Once that's all done, it comes back, we'll send it to you for you guys to execute. You see, it has to be notarized. We can actually have a party if we want to. We'll bring a notary in, so everyone show up. We can all sign. And, I think we've done that with the dam owners a couple times where we've all got together, and so it's actually rather fun. So, but that's really the biggest thing tonight. Do I want to be involved with the property? Am I willing to sign a covenant? Get a covenant? Let us know. We need to execute them if you want your property involved. Again, we're looking at April 15th, tax day, to know one way or another. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, ma'am.
If we've already signed something?
You guys are covered.
Okay.
We're already generating your covenant.
Okay.
So again, for the 9 property owners that were involved in the original, we'll go ahead and generate those covenants and send them to you.
Okay.
So there won't be anything you guys have to do. Yes, sir.
The ones that agree to the covenant, that's the ones that you'll work with them to bring the property into the...
Absolutely. Yeah, if I wasn't clear, I'm sorry. Okay. When we go to take the lake out, when we drain the lake, take the dam out, and we restore the stream, all that work is going to be done on the properties where we have access. So right now, the 9 properties under the lake and adjacent to the dam. If your property is adjacent to the lake and you choose not to have it involved, we legally can't come on your property. So we cannot transition your property into the stream restoration. If you choose to be involved, we will then work with your property, transition it down, and make it a nice, smooth transition into where the stream's going to be. Now, here's the caveat to that. If you choose to do it, and your neighbor doesn't, we still can't go on your neighbor's property. So we may have very limited ability to work on your property. So just so everyone understands that, we still have to grade everything out. And if if you have a very narrow parcel, and your neighbor says no, there's very little we can do on your parcel. Yes, sir.
How do we know where this channel is going to go?
We don't, and we probably won't. We'll have some concepts probably later this summer, but they'll just be that concepts. When we put out the RFP for a design build, it's really going to be up to the design builders to get into the nitty-gritty details. Okay, it will be on those 9 parcels.
Are you able to backtrack the pictures?
Yeah, you bet.
No, that's okay. I didn't realize it was that far back.
No, that's okay. We'll get to it because it's something good. If you have a question, we can talk about it. I mean, the whole idea. Is that one?
Do you have the satellite imagery? Perfect. So, in theory, then, if you're on the, I guess that'd be the north shore.
The side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right where you touched almost. You see how that branch of the river is almost on the north shore, more towards the middle?
Over here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that if your property were on the south shore, it looks like the river's way up north. It looks like your property wouldn't even be affected.
Well, it would, because once the dam goes away, the water level is going to go down. And right now, where you have a river or a bank of the lake, and it drops down maybe a foot or two, that will go away because you won't have any water in there anymore.
Right, but I meant the river itself or whatever.
Right, the streams.
That wouldn't be anywhere near the property.
It will probably. Remember, this is the historic river superimposed over an aerial today. More than likely, it'll be better centered in the river because we're going to try to hit the township has a 75-foot riparian setback that we're going to try to maintain the best we can. So it'll be a little more centered than what the historic stream is showing.
Besides the water coming down in the stream from Goose Creek or whatever it's called, there are multiple storm drains that feed into that.
Yes, sir.
How are you going to handle those?
They will go into the stream. Where they outlet today, they'll be treated with something to keep them from eroding, a rock channel protection, something along those lines, so that we don't have an erosion problem. And then the water will actually be treated through filtration through the natural vegetation before it actually reaches.
So you'll extend those into where the
We
stream.
likely won't extend them. We'll probably allow them to flow overland through that. It's a better treatment for the water. It actually makes it cleaner by the time it hits the creek. Anything else? Okay. I think we'll go back down, but I think we're pretty close to being at the end. So the big thing is, we'll go through the frequently asked questions. So frequently asked questions, I think they're pretty similar to last time. Anybody build? So if the lake goes away, we restore a stream, is some developer going to buy it and then come out and build houses and I'm going to have houses in my backyard? No. The environmental covenant will restrict that, just like it does in the back of your property. It restricts every property involved with this, and that goes in forever, in perpetuity, if you want the legal thing, but it's really just forever. Are there any other options available? And I have to tell you that since the early 2000s, the county, the township, the county commissioners, the township trustees have put a lot of effort into making sure that we looked at every alternative. The dam owners have patiently worked through dealing with ODNR on inspections and emergency action plans. We did everything we could to evaluate any alternative that was out there to restore this dam, dredge the lake, looked at different alternatives to removing the dam, and really we came to where we are today because this was kind of our last, this was the option that we had that could move forward.
Because if we don't do it, the state is going to make us do it anyway. Then we're coming in and then they'll try to bill us.
Right.
But they would rebuild the dam as opposed to make a stream restoration.
Potentially. We don't know what the state will do, and they're an unknown at this point. Right. I think the dam owner's biggest fear is that the state would come in, fix the dam to Class 1 standards, and then bill the property owners or lean against the property owners for the roughly $5 million it would take to restore the dam. Yes, sir.
The stream you showed was the original stream.
That was what it was before the dam was ever built.
At that time, there were 400 homes in the watershed. There are now 4,000 homes in the watershed. How do you plan to compensate for that? And in addition, the stream does not run straight across the road. It makes a 90-degree dog leg. So you now are going to have that water rushing down there in storms and so on.
Just like we showed the riffle pools, there's multiple ways to deal with that drop and to control the flow of the stream. There may be riffle pools, retention basins. There's a myriad of ways that we can look at keeping that stream where we want it to go, how we want it to flow, and where it makes a 90-degree at Prouty, we can have a much gentler approach to that. I think, Jim, I'm not going to speak for the county engineer's office, but that bridge is due to be replaced, Jim, at some point. I'm shaking his head yes. So,
They just replaced it not long ago.
no, not that bridge. Prouty Road?
Yeah.
But it hasn't been replaced recently.
I'm sorry?
Brownie Road is not going to be replaced, the bridge.
Brownie Road has never been overtopped, to my knowledge.
No, the bridge there, is that scheduled that eventually be replaced in the near future? Because you guys have been holding off on doing anything with it.
Well, we did a minor repair about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Just enough to get it through, yeah.
Depending on what we did
It was
here.
closed for a long time, so I didn't think it was mine.
Because there was one of the options would cause us to have to raise the bridge and raise the road, but that option was not chosen, so we are in a position now just to replace the bridge as it is, which is what we will do soon.
Thank you.
You said that the project is fundable. Having talked to the EPA myself, I do know that they get the money from loans that they give out to utilities, and that money is what they use to feed back for stream restoration. But they were saying that money has to match the amount you need, and has to be within a certain time frame that they're actually collecting that interest.
Yes.
What happens if you don't match that, you don't get it?
I'm going to defer to Tim, because this is not...
Yes, we've already reached out to the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. They are a large utility in Cleveland area, and they do multiple improvements every year. I don't know what their entire budget is, but we've already reached out to them to become what EPA calls a sponsor. So as you said, yes, they will undertake a large project. They will finance that project. A portion of their interest rate that they would pay to Ohio EPA goes into a fund for water resource restoration, which is what this is. We're doing a restoration project. So all they have to do is acknowledge that they are financing a large project and that they will allow a portion of that interest rate that they will be paying to EPA anyways to go towards this project if they think it's a good project. So we've already reached out to them. They have told us that they concur with the project, they like it, but they generally do not make official nominations till July or August of the year. That's when they start their planning for the following year. So we've already got something rolling with that, if you will. And if something were to not happen with that, then in speaking with EPA, they also said that they could provide us, they can't go and get a project for us, but they can provide a list of projects that are being undertaken in the state that we can then start contacting entities to see if they would favor this project and be a sponsor for the project. So I'm confident we'll be able to get that sponsor for the project.
Okay, the funding comes after the approval from EPA.
Well, right now, the first step is becoming fundable. They say, here's how much money we are going to have available for that fiscal year. Okay? And then they say,
And it's a 2-year cycle.
Yeah.
So in the first year is all the planning stages, and as Bob mentioned, the second year is when you go into construction. So what we're working on now is working on all the deliverables that EPA requires as part of this program so that we can remain fundable. And then once they approve all those project deliverables, then they say, okay, you're ready to get your sponsor, let's start construction.
So the first hurdle is probably the hardest hurdle. There were a list of, 40 projects, I think?
There were, yes.
And we made it above the fundable line. Now, as Tim said, we have to go through all the hurdles this year on the planning side to get it all worked out and go to construction. And they'll release the funds early next year.
Yes.
So how can you decide what the cost of the project is going to be before you've actually planned out the project?
Because we used some rule of thumb guidance, we did some approximation, but nothing that would be a quality to be able to bring in. So much like we do any other engineering project, you have some guidelines. Sorry, this gentleman was...
Following through on the same question, anybody who's looked at the dam during a storm sees that the water level at the spillway can rise by as much as 3 feet, 30 feet wide, flowing at least 10 feet a second. I mean, there's a huge volume of water going through. So that's going to pass through this stream that you're showing. You showed pictures of this nice little ripple pool and all that. That's not what it's going to look like when there's a storm. So you're really going to have a lot of expense to harden that or get it to accommodate all of that. What's going to happen when you find out your engineering to accommodate all that is gonna cost a lot more than what you budgeted. The easiest thing to back off on is all this restoration, riparian zone, and beautification and all that. I had this terrible fear that we're just gonna have a stream in the back and a big mess.
I appreciate everything you're saying. In order to come up with that number, we actually do have the hydraulics that were done originally. We understand what those are going to be. We understand about what the elevations are going to be, so we know how much fill is going to be required. We know what the flow volumes are going to be. What we don't know is the details of where everything's going to go. That we're leaving up to the innovation of the design build team. So I appreciate exactly what you're saying, but we feel very confident that
And if there's cost overrun, where will the money come from?
There can't be a cost overrun.
You can't spend more than you're being allocated. If the actual cost to do all the things you talked about turns out to be a higher cost, what's going to be sacrificed?
well, I can tell you, and to your point, we won't be able to back off on the water quality issues, which are the plantings and because that's what this grant or the funding is all available for. So as much as we could say that it's going to be, all these pretty things are going to go in, those pretty things are what make this a fundable project. Right. To restore the stream, to increase the environmental, to do good things. So that's probably the most protected. So I feel, trust me when I say we feel very confident that we have built in enough into the project that we will be able to do this. Just to give you an idea, is the max, the typical WRRSP, that's the funding name of the program is. They capped that at 1.5 million. And we went and made a case for 1.6 million because that's what it's going to take, and told them that. We know you capped at 1.5, but we really needed this to do it right. We were awarded 1.6. So I appreciate what you're saying. We had the same concern. That's why it took us 9 months to get to where we are today. Jim?
I want to, you might explain that the purpose of the bids. Before you start, you're going to have a pretty good idea what the cost is. It's going to come in, first of all, under Ohio law, if you come in more than 10% of the estimate, you can't award it. But it also gives you an opportunity then to look at the project, discuss it with the potential bidders, because this is a design build, and find ways to trim that cost before you start. But once they sign a contract for X number of dollars, which probably will be within your budget, one way or another, then it's very, very difficult to expand that.
And just Jim said, we're actually working on a project under the same program for the Cleveland Metro Parks, where we actually bid it with the contractor, and that's our budget. And now we're putting everything together for that budget. So very much like
You've shown the snake-like way you're probably going to do this, but water likes to go in straight lines, and that's why they have gangs and rivers where they change course and make new channels. So how are you going to reinforce that so it stays in the channel?
I mean, there's ways we can do that. There's also ways we can let it figure out some of its own course as we look through this, and based on geomorphology, what it's done, what the stream's done in the past, and seeing how it moves through the whole area. Taking the 1951 aerial would be a good start. So we're not just going to come in there and say we're going to go from point A to point B and we're going to draw a straight line. We're going to try to work with, try to anticipate what the stream's going to want to do. I appreciate what you're saying. We can't control Mother Nature. We think we can. Eventually she wins. But I think that our design will be in line with where she wants to go. It was there before we put the in. And it all worked.
Before they talked about reinforcing that with stones or concrete.
It will definitely have stones. It will have trickle ponds. It will have different flood evaluations. Jeff, you have any ideas to what other?
There's like longitudinal objects that you can put in there to kind of force water to move around one way, like fallen trees are a natural thing. Not that there's trees right now to put in there, but there's all kinds of things that you can place strategically to force like a pool to be here in this spot, or there's plantings that you can do strategically along the length of that proposed stream. So I mean, there's all kinds of things, and with a design build project, You're going to have, you know, the top consulting companies in the area with the top contractors in the area competing to do this project for the best price and the most innovative. So that's what a great thing about a design build contract is you're gonna see some innovation that's gonna be a cost savings. So I think those are good things, and we don't know what exactly they're gonna be, but we feel confident that they'll work.
Also, Bob, you're gonna create a natural floodplain so that under high flow, the water's gonna spread out. That'll take the velocity down compared to the narrow area of the dam. And so it will flow forward at a lot slower velocity. It will still be fairly high, but that'll also enhance your river pools and other things staying in place. So there's things like that will create a better environment for high flows. Which is what we're going to engineer.
Sorry, does anyone have a question? So we'll give her back to you. Yes, ma'am.
So let's say we get a bunch of bids and there's like 2 or 3 that have bid that are within our realms, but they're totally different concepts. Now who's going to decide on what we go with?
I'm glad you asked that question, because not only is it different concepts, but there's no requirement within this program to go with a low bid. So we're going to ask for both ideas, concepts, price, and qualifications. So we can quantify exactly what's coming in. We don't have to say, well, you know, I know, you know, hey, as a remote, I understand low bid isn't always the way you want to go.
Bob, it's probably good to point out also that as far as the concept goes, as we move forward through this process this year, Ohio EPA is going to be involved with that as well, because the way we wrote the letter requesting the funding, there are certain, as I said, project deliverables, and they want to make sure we meet those. So when we come up with our concept, it will be pretty well approved by Ohio EPA, and so that, as Jeff mentioned, that the contractors and the designers will have some leeway to be innovative and move things around, but the general concept will be in place.
And we'll be back here to present that. I think October-ish time frame, I think was the schedule.
I think that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Sorry, this man wasn't there, so. Yes, sir.
So the question was raised about debris that comes down. There's always debris that's coming down, depositing in the lake right now. There's silt that deposits. There are beaver that have built a dam on the lake in the past. There's all kinds of potential maintenance that has to be done. So what provisions are going to exist for maintenance over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
I'm glad you asked that. It's like we planted you guys. You guys are asking a perfect question. As part of this project and part of the program, we actually have to commit to doing maintenance. And Lake County Stormwater Department is going to take that on with Lake County Soil and Water and Concord Township to be able to maintain it and keep it up to the Ohio EPA standards. So that's actually a good thing. When you asked it, it's also a good thing for everyone sitting in this room. It's not going to just go debris everywhere and look like something you don't want in your backyard. But this man's nice, so.
All right. Just to further Tom's question though, for what time period? I mean, I saw the one thing that says the group, whoever takes it, goes from 2020 to 25.
Right.
And what happens after 25? Does that?
Tim, I don't know if there's a specific in the grant or if this just becomes part of the normal.
I think the 2020 to 2025, generally speaking, when you do a project like this, there's a 5-year monitoring period. So that is definitely built in there, that there's 5 years of monitoring, that we have to monitor the project to make sure it's successful. Once that 5-year period is up, the Stormwater Management Department, through our partnership with Concord Township, will have identified that as a regional stream, part of the regional drainage structure. So that gives the township the ability to perform maintenance on our behalf. So we can go out there, monitor the stream, inspect it, do an evaluation annually, and if we see work that we think needs to be done, we can approach the township to perform that for us and then reimburse them. If it's something that they cannot perform, then we always have the ability to get a contractor out there. But once we've invested our time and our money into this project, we want to see it succeed. So we will be actively inspecting that area and keeping an eye on it.
All right. The question, to further on that, because I know some people have had ponds in the area, and they have ponds, their own private ponds on their property. They've had them cleaned out, they've had different things built so we could get the silt, catch the silt before it goes back into their pond. But they have to call every year to get that maintained. Is this something we're gonna have to do do we have to form some sort of a group or?
I mean, that would certainly be, if you want to do that, you want to have a group that looks at it annually and gives us a report, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But as I said, I'm pretty confident that 5-year monitoring period is going to be mandatory.
Okay.
And then after that, we have a vested interest in this project to see it succeed, so we will try to perform annual inspections. Nick, I think we're doing that now on other portions of Kellogg Creek. We take a look at them periodically just to see, what is it, about a mile away, we did a stream restoration on Kellogg Creek, and we periodically take a look at that to see if the vegetation is still holding, if we have erosion issues, if we have trees down or beaver dams that have impacted that stream. So we will take an active role in that.
Okay, my original questions though were depth and width. Do you have some idea what that will be of the stream that you're going to create? And number two, just for then I'll be done. Where do you think you're going to be working from? The dam area backwards, or from the entrance at where the creek comes into and then go towards the dam? You're going to need trucks or something, equipment to go in.
Yes. Let me answer the second one first.
All right.
Yes, from both sides. The Concord Township owns the parcel on the far end of the lake, the upstream side, and then we have access to the dam. So we'll work from both directions, because once we let the water out of the lake, there's a lot of silt in there that we either have to dry out to be used as fill or to haul offsite and bring new stuff in. And that's all going to be determined as we move through the next phases. So just an answer, okay. The first question was the width.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we have all that figured out. Okay, we've got some preliminary numbers, we've got some preliminary, I don't have them with me, and I don't even know if we want to say what those are until we get further along on the concepts. When we come back in the summer, or in October, we'll have some of that information for you, and we'll have some renderings and some ideas of what's going to happen.
Thank you.
Okay, so I apologize for not having that tonight. So, I'm sorry, ma'am, you were next, actually.
If we have dams or docks and retaining walls on our property, whose financial responsibility will it be to remove those in this process, or will they just be left hanging there?
I guess it would depend on multiple things. If it was part of, if you're a property owner, you have it out.
Yes.
And if you sign a covenant on part of the project, it could possibly be removed as part of the project, because that would be kind of rough work.
Sure.
If you choose not to be involved in signing the environmental covenant, we can't touch anything on your property. So it would be, yeah, we can't, just like.
But with no water.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, someone else had a question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, at the last meeting, you mentioned that if you do get the grant, the first step would be to start draining the thing, to start drying it out. Are you going to still do that?
It won't be this year, because construction's not going to happen until next year. There's a possibility, again, as we go through this, we may figure out that we're going to start draining it, say, next January, or we may decide that we're going to leave that on the contractor. He may have a specific way he wants to do it to accommodate his design. Okay, so I, as much as, right now, if the people who own the dam decide to go up there and open the valve and let it go, that's their prerogative with their dam. So I don't think they would do that based on my discussions with them, but yes, ma'am.
There's a lovely island fairly close to the dam.
Yes, ma'am.
That houses a ton of birds.
Yes, ma'am.
What's happening to the island?
The island will be integrated as part of the design. That's going to be a big chunk of where we put the design and how we integrate that in. It has mature trees on it. We're not going to want anything to happen to that, because that's going to help us in the long run.
Okay. And I don't know how to put this nicely, so I'll just say it. I hope this will look better than the project that was done at the end of Morley by the entrance to New 44. That wasn't done by. I don't know who was done by, but.
Just so you understand, the property owners in that area, that's what they wanted.
Okay.
Right? I mean, they wanted it to look wild. They wanted it to be natural. They didn't want enhancements. Just like you guys want it to be something nice, they got exactly what they wanted. And that was specifically designed to meet their
So we will have options, we'll have something to choose from.
Absolutely. When we come back and start going through giving the concepts, we're gonna take your comments on those back and look at different things. And then when we get into the design build process, they're gonna have more renderings, concepts, things that can happen. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
So political climates change, and if something happens, we'll support for maintaining the stream away. Based on what you were saying. Do you have an interest?
I'll take that one on. The township is in a partnership. We are members of the Lake County Stormwater Program. Political climate, look, no offense, no disrespect, Jim. Elected officials come and go all day long throughout the country. And, some of them, you get new ones in and they may not like it, but you've got a conservation easement that's in perpetuity. We have a responsibility as the township, and Lake County Stormwater has a responsibility to maintain regional stormwater facilities. This restored stream becomes just that, and it's just part of the Lake County Stormwater program that we're already in. I don't foresee that changing. I don't care if Satan gets elected as the trustee, it's not going to change. I've never seen that happen. You have to honor the covenants, and you have to do what's good for the residents, both in the restoration area and for all the folks that are downstream as well. Because what we do in this area, making sure it's properly maintained, affects everybody downstream.
And just to add to that from the Lake County standpoint, and without going into a full discussion on it, but the reason the Lake County Stormwater Department exists is due to an unfunded EPA mandate to have a stormwater management program for certain municipalities within Lake County. So regardless of whether or not the township would be in Lake County's program, Lake County's program will exist because we are providing the service to communities for this unfunded mandate. Should the township ever wish to get out of stormwater for whatever reason, if they did, they would have that responsibility on their shoulders then and still be responsible for water quality improvements within the township. So,
unfunded federal mandate.
Yeah.
We got like 3 more slides. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Just wondering if it will affect Sandpiper Pond at all. Is that little pond just north from drains right into?
I think it would. I mean, it shouldn't change the hydraulics of the pond. I mean, it'll still drain instead of it'll drain into the creek. I don't think it will. You'll see a major difference.
Thank you.
I think we talked about what if I don't want property included in stream restoration? We hit that one. And then we've just got a couple more slides more. I put these in there if anybody had questions about, again, like what Jim was saying. When we put the stream in, we'll have the stream channel, but we'll also have a floodplain adjacent to it for those high flows, so we can control where the high flows go, rather than just letting them flood everything. We will actually have a main channel, which will hold your everyday flows, and you'll have an extended channel that will have your heavy flows in a floodplain.
What's that calculation based off of? What, 100-year flood, 1,000-year flood?
Yes, it's based off of what is required based on the Ohio Revised Code. I don't have the answer for that right now. We will work through that and it will be designed for the appropriate flood. Right now, you're going to see, or you are seeing in the industry, is 100-year flood is a thing of the past. They're becoming a 1% or a 0.5% or a 0.1% chance of it happening in any given year. Because Jim, how many 100-year floods have we had in the last 10 years? Probably 6 of them. So there's not a 100-year flood anymore because they're happening so often. So we're changing that. So not to put you off or not to give you, stonewall you in the answer. I don't know what we're going to design for. Whatever is applicable for the situation, we're going to be required to because of how EPA is going to mandate it.
And you'll potentially have numbers come October? To be honest with you, since we met last time, we've done very little engineering other than trying to get an estimate together to do the funding. It's not a grant, so I got to be careful. That's not. It's a funding,
And we had to do a fairly elaborate price proposal, price to figure out what it was going to cost to construct everything. But there was not a whole lot of hydraulics in there, and so that is the next step. I think we've been working this officially since Thursday.
So who's paying for this? For what you're doing now and all?
It's all part of the program. It's all part of the
Yeah,
program.
actually, what's happened, Lake County is gonna pay for that right now, but we've gotten, assurance from Ohio EPA that it will be reimbursed. So it's part of the grant program, or not the grant program, but part of the funding package.
You'll be reimbursed if they provide you the money, right?
They're going to provide us the money,
The commitment.
and so they've already committed to that, and so they will reimburse us for that.
Well, there's all sorts of steps that have to be done.
There are, yeah.
Things have to be checked off. If one of those doesn't get checked off,
Well, I guess we're taking that chance, and, but we fully expect to be funded, and we fully expect to be reimbursed, and working with all associates, we fully expect for them to deliver on the project deliverables that they gave us in the scope.
Another question from the input there by the Kellogg Creek coming into the lake.
Yes.
As it meanders back towards Button Road area, anything going to be done to that? That's
going to stay pretty much the way it is today. We're not moving that far. Okay. It's really going to start at where the stream comes into the lake.
right there.
Right. Yes, sir.
since you're worried about water quality, are you installing as part of this project a filter trap or a silt trap at the end there?
At which end? The inlet end?
Yeah.
Well, the idea is that once the stream's restored, a lot of that silt will carry right through and continue on down Kellogg
But
Creek.
silt is something that pollutes Lake Erie.
Correct, but that's nature. We can't go in there, we will not go in there and stop it. The silt moving is part of what we're trying to reestablish.
Yeah, but the
With the whole
EPA has
stream.
put in silt filters in other areas.
They do, if we have a
To prevent
filter
that.
with it, we could do that. Your riffle falls could, they could all act as silt filters, but the whole idea now is to restore this back to something natural and putting in filters or artificials. Where the water comes in, when we talked about the storm sewer, that water will be filtered before it gets to the creek, just naturally, because we're not going to carry the pipes right to the edge of the street. We're going to let it go and let the vegetation filter it out. The whole idea is that right now the sediment comes up the stream, ends in the lake, and then beyond the dam, there's very little sediment. Then it picks it up and dumps it in the big creek. And so we're looking at making this as close to natural as we can.
And just to clarify one point on that as well, during construction, there will definitely be sediment control.
Absolutely, yes. When we're moving dirt, it'll all be in accordance with the EPA's
Absolutely.
best management practices. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question to you. Bob, they talked about the outlets from the various streets on the dam. And you talked about extending them to using rock and a channel and so forth, so that the water gets into the stream. However, if you have a property owner whose property encompasses that outlet, and you can't get to it to create that channel, how do you propose to transfer the water?
There are actually already drainage easements for all of those that are already there that the township has executed with those property owners. And that
What if we
drainage
rescind
easement-
those?
I'm not an attorney, I can't help you with that. We'd have to talk to the attorney.
Because those easements were originally given for another purpose.
No, he's talking about the storm sewer pipes.
Storm sewer easements?
Those are the storm sewer pipes are in drainage easements to the township.
Okay, but they were, a few years ago, they had easements
Yeah,
that some
those-
property owners, some.
Those, like we said, I don't know if you were at the meeting last time, no one's gonna hold you guys to those. The ones along the lake,
Okay.
we understand, those were given for a different reason. I think last time we were very clear. We are not gonna hold anybody to those. This environmental covenant will be the one that takes the place of that.
So I don't need to
What Mr.
rescind.
Gills was talking about is the drainage easements. If you look on this map, they're shown in there that every so often where we have storm sewer that comes out into, from the streets, you have a catch basin, it goes out and drops into the lake today. There's a drainage easement there in the township's name to allow for that to happen. And that, I don't think that changes because it's still
That does not
performing
change.
the exact same purpose. It's taking storm drainage from the roads and taking it to the natural watercourse.
And sir, your point about pollution, there's things that we can do at the end of those pipes before they enter into the stream, such as they're called floor banks, but you can create a pool, if you will, to trap the sediment that's coming off the roadway
Yes.
before it enters in the stream, and then that becomes an area for the township to maintain and remove those accumulated sediments that may contain the heavy metals from your brakes or salt, any silt or sediment that's on the roadway that may end up in that stream. You can collect them in basically a pool before they enter the stream, so we can maintain the distinct quality of the stream. So those are options that we can present to our design build team when we get to that point.
Sorry, I was thinking you meant the sediment coming up the stream, but yes, we will definitely treat the sediment coming from the streets. Yes. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned about the signing and getting the legal paper.
Yes.
Based on last meeting, if we either accepted or denied, does that still apply? Or
It
do we
does not.
So
Because,
last meeting,
again, last meeting was, well, we'll do this environmental easement, which would be a pretty simple form. After the meeting, we found out it's this 18-page document, okay? I think it would be unfair for us to try to hold anybody to that and say, yeah, I want to be involved with that. So as far as we're concerned, the slate's been wiped clean, other than the 9 property owners that already agreed to it, so because that was part of the whole funding program. So right now, whatever you said, I still have a record of who said what. We have that all recorded, but we're not going to hold anybody to that because, again, I think the rules have changed. It's not fair. I can tell you right now. I mean, I've been involved with this project for a while. The county, the township, the dam owners, they all want to do what's right. So no one's going to sit here and try to screw you guys over or try to do something bad. We're trying to make this work for everybody. So we're not the adversary. We don't want you guys to be the adversary. We want to be part of it.
and that wasn't the intent.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
I needed to know if I needed to re-approve
Please
or
do.
deny.
Yes, please do.
Hey, Bob, maybe you could explain, where we don't necessarily know the ins and outs of this covenant, but maybe you could explain where it came from a little bit better.
I'm sorry.
The
covenant? The environmental covenant is an EPA document required with the funding. So it comes with any property that we're going to touch and spend this this funding money on. I'll get used to that one of these days. The funding money on has to be covered by this environmental covenant. The whole purpose of the funding is to restore the stream, to enhance the stream. So if they're using their money to enhance it, they want the environmental covenant to make sure that, hey, we're not going to restore the stream and then come and build condos on it. Okay? So that's kind of what that's for, and it's a requirement for the funding
From the Ohio EPA.
from the Ohio EPA. It's their form, and there's very little flexibility. I mean, they've said that according to their attorneys, this is the form they need to answer.
So anything you sign before that, with stormwater or anybody else, is void and null. This takes its place.
I can't.
I don't want to say it's null or void, but it's probably unenforceable by us at this time, because it was for a different purpose. But one thing I want to point out also, and this is not meant to scare anybody or try to force your hand or anything like that, but Ohio EPA has been pretty steadfast that once the project begins, now we're talking about next year, once the project begins and we start the construction, if you have not signed an environmental covenant by that time, you will not be able to participate because they are going to approve everything up front of who is participating, what lands will, because we need to do the title work, all that stuff needs to be in place before we go out with our design build teams and whatnot. So that's just a fact. I'm shoot the messenger, but you can't wait until the shovel's in the ground and say, oh, that looks pretty good, I want to join now. It won't happen. And that's not my rule, that's theirs.
And if you're
you're not part of the covenant, they won't maintain your part of the property.
They legally can't come on your property.
Right, so
They can't, no one will ever be on your property, and no one from the Lake Stormwater Department, township, cannot be on your property. You have legal right to your property.
we can go in the stream.
But the stream will be on the other property.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
I don't think there'd be any reason not to want them to do something. I would think
I agree, I disagree.
you disagree.
I'm not
with
saying.
That's again, it's a free country.
Yeah. And also, my next question is, I know we asked this the last time, but as far as you know, this is not going to affect taxes for us people on the lake, or?
No.
Should not.
Property values go down and then it lowers it back.
That might increase it. You're not paying any more right now. You're not paying any more for your property around the lake than somebody down the street. Because I looked at a couple of them. Because your taxes are based strictly on property, it's not based on lake road. Now, sales price, maybe you think it's good.
Which is what they base it on.
Well, maybe. Depends on who wants it. It's like anything else, you know that.
I tell you, I'd rather have a property on a moving stream than a swamp.
If a person decides not to sign this and you build your stream, could that person then do something on their property up to the stream?
Anybody can do anything they want on their property, much like the dam owners can go do what they want to do.
You have to follow the township's riparian setbacks, which means you cannot do anything closer than 75 feet off the bank of that stream. We have riparian
75 feet?
No, that's 75.
There's a 75 foot riparian setback within the
Riparian
township.
setback, 75 feet.
It is.
Not from the stream, but from their property line.
It's from the stream, it's a 75 foot riparian setback. So if you were a new builder coming into a new area and there was a stream, you would have a 75 foot riparian setback. I'm not sure how that would affect this situation because you have houses that are there, it's a gray area. So I don't know that we can answer that question.
Depending on where you put that stream, you could be 75 foot in somebody's house.
Right, but that would be obviously grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So that, again, I don't know how the riparian setback would fall into that. But I'm assuming if you want to go improve your property and the township was.
At that point, we would, just off the cuff, at that point, everybody's obviously grandfathered because your structure's in the riparian setback, but you wouldn't be able to build anything unless you went through all the appropriate steps and likely went through the Board of Zoning and Appeals and obtained permission to do something if you are not part of the conservation easement or the covenant.
That seems like the reasonable answer. I think everyone would work with you, but you
You'd
still have to jump
likely
through all
have to
those.
go through the BZA and go through all the steps to do that.
Yes, sir.
So just to clarify, last meeting there was, and I don't know if it was you or if it was somebody else asking the question, mentioned additional property throughout essentially lakefront houses. And I was just curious, as far as property being allocated to people who butted up to the lake.
I think I know the discussion about that at one point as a possibility. I think under this program that probably would not happen. There's a chance, and Tim, I don't know if you talk about what happens to the property in the.
Well, I think that with the EPA holding this with the property owner signing this environmental covenant, I don't think that it can be transferred to a private entity. We could probably transfer that environmental covenant to a soil and water district or the metro parks or some other public entity, but the whole purpose of having that environmental covenant is to protect the resource that we are spending money on. So when we talked about easements and perhaps, I think that's when that discussion came up and the gentleman said, well, he'd be willing to purchase the easement if he got access directly to the stream. And I think we entertained the idea, but getting further into this program and their requirements, I would be very reluctant to say that someone would take over one of these environmental covenants as a private citizen.
Or the underlying property, that's the same thing. you have questions that you just don't want to bring up in front of everybody, please feel free to talk to one of our team members, okay? And I appreciate everyone coming out. Please see Jeff, get a copy of the covenant. Tell him if you absolutely know, or if you absolutely know one way or another, let him know. That will help us out.